Bernie Sanders didn't apologize. You know, he had no regrets for promoting Plattner and putting him in that situation. You really, you don't regret voting for a guy that was credibly accused of a woman and abusing other ex-girlfriends? You don't have no regrets? That, you know, the guy that thinks that an American hero doesn't deserve to live? Really?
Is Bernie making it harder for Democrats to recapture the majority?
Well, yeah. I mean, like, what's he out on? Well, what's in it for him? You know, if it's not anything more at this point, ego. You know, maybe sit a few out, Bernie. You know, it's you're not helping.
America, a guy in a hoodie standing on the sidewalk just gave a more honest assessment of his own party than a strategist on a cable news network combined. That is John Fetterman, our good friend John Fetterman. And he just told an 84-year-old socialist senator to sit his butt down. Bernie's response wasn't to reflect. It was to go on television and say that he wouldn't take advice from Fetterman. The same week, his own party's headquarters got put up as collateral for a loan just to keep the lights on.
He said you should sit this out.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
So you think I should take his advice? I probably won't. But John, not going to take your advice.
What is up, guys? Tyson DeLaCruz here. Thank you so much for rocking with me. John Fetterman called out Bernie Sanders for endorsing Senate candidate named Graham Planter, who's been credibly accused of abuse. Bernie shrugged it off. Fetterman told him in public on camera that he's ego tripping and actively hurting his own party's chances of winning back the majority. And you guys, I'm going to say something that you don't hear me say about Democrats very often. Fetterman is one of the only ones in front of camera that I actually respect, at least in my opinion. He votes with his party plenty of times, but when something's dumb, he says that it's dumb. He says it out loud without actually checking the consultants first. That is rarer than a decent buffet in this business. And you guys have been around long enough to know the difference between a guy who is telling the truth and is lying about his hand. Fetterman's the first guy, and the rest of the cast is very much second or third or bottom of the rung. And here's where it gets genuinely funny in the absolute saddest way possible. Bernie went on camera, unprompted, and explained exactly why he doesn't care what Fetterman thinks.
So I would not put too much credibility in what somebody like Fetterman says.
He said you should sit this out.
Is that what he said?
Yeah.
So you think I should take his advice? I probably won't. But John, not going to take your advice.
A 34-year Senate veteran, 3 homes to his name, including a lake house that he bought weeks after his own party allegedly rigged a primary against him, just dismissed one of the Democrats currently polling like actual normal human being here. That's not a comeback, Bernie. That, at least in my opinion, is a man refusing to check his own oil light because the dashboard is quote unquote biased. And here's the part that should actually make you laugh instead of make you mad. Bernie flew to Michigan with none other than AOC to rally for the DSA-backed candidate. And AOC told the crowd with a straight face that this election is not a referendum on the future of the Democratic Party.
And Representative AOC was asked this question too, and she said that primary elections are not a referendum on a party, but a referendum on that community.
She flew on a private jet's worth of energy into Michigan to campaign on a race that she insisted doesn't matter for the actual Democrat Party. And you guys, that's like showing up to your ex's wedding to explain to everyone why I'm totally over her. I'm over her. That's it. I'm just here at the wedding to say that I'm over you.
You, according to my colleague Manu Raju, have clashed with Senator Bernie Sanders over the fact that he is campaigning for progressive candidates, some of whom are challenging incumbents you back, including members of the Congressional Black Caucus. Are Senator Sanders and other progressives in the party making it harder for you to win in November? Is that what you said to Senator Sanders?
No, I wouldn't describe it as a clash. It was a candid conversation along with Congressman Greg Meeks, to chair the Congressional Black Caucus PAC, with respect to one particular race in North Carolina at the beginning of the primary cycle and trying to get a sense of his approach to that race. I do think that Senator Sanders and Democrats in both the House and the Senate understand the stakes that are in front of us, particularly as we are 100 days out. And that's making sure that we actually take back control of the Congress so we can end this MAGA extremism that has been unleashed on the American people, that is actively hurting hardworking American taxpayers and actually commit to making life more affordable for the American people. That's clearly what the American people want to see done, and that's not what Republicans have been able to accomplish during their time in office since Trump was sworn in back in January of last year.
Bernie's not wrong that the Michigan candidate is getting outspent by roughly 50-1 in the super PAC money. That is a real structural problem. And it's fair to point out big donor cash is drowning the grassroots campaigns. And I'm not going to pretend that that part of the story is fake. But watch what happens the second you guys, one of these DSA candidates actually wins and they start governing. Look at Zohran Mamdani in New York, promised 5,000 new police officers. Once in office, he quietly kept the department flat around 35,000. 35,000. And his own DSA chapter turned his back on him publicly that same week.
It sounds like what you're doing differently is you're being competent or, ruthlessly pursuing those goals and chipping away at them. So why take that on?
I want to be honest with people about what it is that I actually believe in. And I also think what we've seen over many decades is a fear-mongering in our politics, where anything that we disagree with or anything that portends significant change is described as if it is socialist, at times as if it is communist. And the intent of that is to end the conversation there and then. And it especially happens when you're talking about something that would disproportionately benefit working people. If we truly want to reckon with 1 in 4 New Yorkers being in poverty, we have to also ask ourselves about if it's important to change the framework with which what we determine success to be.
And then you guys, it's not just Mamdani feeling the heat from his own side. Go straight to the source of the document because the DSA already told you what they actually believe in on national television. True or false, no wiggle room.
Abolish the Senate.
True.
Okay. Replace the presidency and Supreme Court as we now know them.
Yep.
Abolish ICE.
Absolutely.
Abolish borders and give amnesty to anyone currently in the U.S. illegally.
As a long-term plan, yep.
Defund the Pentagon.
Absolutely.
Abolish prisons, at least in large part.
Yeah, again, that as part of a long-term program, yeah.
Okay, so no prisons. Government or public ownership of most large corporations.
Yeah, absolutely.
Abolish the Senate. Abolish prisons in large part. That's not a Fox News talking point about it. That is their own national co-chair confirming herself on record. No editing required here. Bernie Sanders is out here endorsing candidates from the exact wing while lecturing everyone else about who's not helping the party. Here's how the whole operation actually runs here. A wing of the party builds a platform that most swing voters would sprint away from. The national figures like Bernie and AOC parachute into that single House or Senate race, then turn it into a referendum on a platform, whether they admit it or not. And if the candidate wins, they get to claim that there's movement. There's movement in the DSA. If the candidate loses or governs badly once elected, suddenly it's not a referendum. It is on their candidate's own accord. That is not a strategy. That is a timeshare presentation. Everybody gets a free breakfast and a tour, maybe even a show, and nobody signs anything because they don't want to explain it to their spouse later on. Here's what it actually cost the party while this theater here is playing out. The DNC itself is roughly $18 million in debt right now. $18 million. They put their own Washington headquarters up as collateral for a loan. Can you imagine that? They're asking vendors to hold off sending bills until after the midterms, like a guy asking for a casino to spot him one more round on credit.
Democratic Party leaders are asking vendors not to send bills until after the midterm elections, while Notice reports the Democratic National Committee put its Washington, D.C. headquarters up as collateral to obtain a loan last year.
Meanwhile, the RNC is sitting on over $100 million in cash, hard money, okay? CNN's own panel, not me, not anybody on the right, CNN confirmed that Democrat Party is 24 points underwater nationally right now. The worst number since anybody started tracking.
Back in 2018, when Democrats were able to take control of the House, they were actually on the plus side of the ledger. They were actually in positive territory at plus 1 point. Look now in 2026. We're not just talking down there underneath the Potomac. We're talking down there with the Titanic. We're talking 24 points underwater.
So while the party's own headquarters is one missed payment away from a repo man, the two loudest voices in that are busy fighting over whether or not to abolish the Senate should be first-term priorities or a second-term priority. You guys, that's not a coalition. That's a group chat that should have never been unmuted. America, Bernie says he doesn't take advice from Fetterman. Fetterman is the one whose approval numbers aren't currently being audited for collateral by his own party's landlord. The DSA told you flat out on camera, true or false, that abolishing the Senate is the goal. Bernie's response to being called out over it was to double down on the exact candidates carrying the platform into swing states. You can mortgage the headquarters or you can mortgage the message. Right now, the Democrat Party is doing both at the same time and calling it a strategy. Let me know what you guys think about this. Drop it down in the comments section down below. Smash the like button if you kindly would. Share, subscribe, and as always, guys, I'll catch you on the next one.